Agreeing on Sustainable Development Goals was a huge achievement from global society. Now, for the first time, we have a global agenda that aims at poverty eradication within the planetary boundaries. The next step now is implementation, and implementation will take place at country level. So each country will need to make a national implementation plan. There is no any rules on how to make this plan, but some kind of plan would need to be made by each country, and then the country level implementation should be based on that implementation plan. In national implementation, policy coherence is very important. The goals are integrated and interrelated, and their implementation needs to be done in a coherent way, so that when we are addressing one of the goals or targets, we are not producing some counter effects on other goals and targets. Another important issue is that the implementation will be done in a participatory manner. So the agenda was agreed among the governments, and the governments have the main responsibility for its implementation. But the governments cannot do it alone. It will need to be done taking the whole society on board. In Finland, we are currently planning to make a baseline analysis where we make an assessment on where we are at the moment compared to these new global goals and targets. And then, based on this baseline analysis, we'll make our national implementation plan. In the implementation in every country, I think it's useful to make a difference between the internal dimension of the implementation and the external dimension. Internal dimension is about those actions that are needed in your country. For example, in the case of Finland, we have to concentrate on our consumption patterns, on sustainable consumption and production and those issues, or energy efficiency. And then on other countries, these national challenges are something different, maybe. But then there is also the external dimension, which in the case of Finland is how we can assist other countries in their work to implement the goals and targets. And this work is in our case mostly done through the development policy and development cooperation. There are two key issues as comes to monitoring. The other one is about the mechanisms, and the other one is about the data. About the mechanisms, there will be 3 levels where the monitoring will take place. There's the country level, and then there is the regional level, and then there is the global level. On country level, countries are making their implementation plans, and then there needs to be some kind of country level mechanisms for monitoring. The parliaments will probably in many countries have a key role in the monitoring, but this is for each country to decide. Then there is a regional level where countries can share experiences and maybe learn from each other as comes to implementation and the progress in implementation. The third level is global level. And on a global level, we have a new forum for this. It's called a High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, which convenes annually and which have the role of assessing the global progress vis-à-vis the goals and targets. So there are these 3 levels. Another key issue is the data. Of course, data is needed for us to be able to monitor and assess our progress. And currently there are ongoing discussions on indicators, and there will be an indicator framework for all the goals and targets which will be discussed in the ECOSOC next spring. And so these indicators will cover the goals and targets on a global level. But then countries can have their national indicators on top of those global indicators. And indicators need data production. And in data production, there are big challenges to get all the data from all the countries. And this is one issue where we need to really make an effort in the coming years to get all the data. Another important issue is to get disaggregated data, so that we don't only have data about the number of people living below in extreme poverty, but we also know if those are men or women, if they are from which age group. This kind of information is necessary for us to know if we are lagging behind our goals in some area. It is often the case that what gets measured gets done. Millennium Development Goals, I think, are a good example of that. The progress on those were reported on an annual basis, and in the end we can see that we got some very good results. Now with the SDGs, our monitoring framework is much more sophisticated, so I think we really have a good chance to monitor our progress and get our goals and targets accomplished. On the other hand, monitoring is also a question of accountability. The governments are accountable for implementing goals and targets and the whole agenda on a country level. So we need to have some monitoring to be able to say if our governments are really doing their work well and getting progress, or if they are lagging behind. And so for these reasons, it is very important to monitor. Also, on global level, monitoring is very important. The high-level political forum that monitors the progress on a global level, it has a chance to see if we are lagging behind in some goals or targets based on the data and the monitoring. And then we can also focus our attention and resources to those issues, so that within those next 15 years we can really reach all the goals and targets.